that to me.
Oh, they're already on. Haven't turned on. Here we go. Okay, board is already in open session. We have no presentations tonight, but we have thunder. We have taking positive steps of service award presentations.
All right, so taking positive steps for service award, we have 3 of them. First, we'll have Dwayne Daly come up. And actually, this award is for both Dwayne and, I should have brought my glasses. I printed this awfully small. Dwayne and Whitney. So we would like to recognize the School District of Lodi Middle School and High School Art Department. Dwayne Daly and Whitney Robarge received a grant from the Green Bay Packer Foundation. The Art Department will use its grant dollars, $3,500, to purchase digital drawing software for iPads as well as for Apple Pencils to draw directly onto iPads. The implementation of the new drawing software and drawing pencils paired with the iPads that our middle school and high school buildings currently have will give students a digital drawing experience that we have not been able to give them in the past. We are excited to give our students the experience of drawing digitally. Digital drawings will be implemented into existing 2-dimensional curricula in both the middle school and high school buildings. We believe that the grant money received from the Green Bay Packer Foundation will be a launching point for greater things to come for our students to explore the digital drawing realm. We've been greatly impressed during our time. This is from Nick Carls. I've been greatly impressed during my time as director with the eagerness to create a cohesive and innovative art experience for our students. Thank you much, Dwayne and Whitney. So on behalf of the district, I give you a Taking a Positive Service, or Taking Positive Steps for Service Award. Sorry, that's Whitney's. For you. And it comes with $100 grand. Yeah. Anything you would like to say?
The software is incredible, and the kids are loving it. The high school students are working on the fire department logo that the fire department had asked them to work on, and so they're using the tablets to work on that logo. In the middle school, we're going to be designing t-shirt designs for the Lodi Stride with Pride event that's coming up in the spring. And so, and just, it's a revolutionary way to draw, and it's so engaging that some of these students that maybe don't have an interest in art, but like technology, it hooks them right away. And it's incredibly interactive, and the result that kids get is very immediate. So everything's really positive so far. Yep.
We have to clap.
And Whitney, unfortunately, couldn't be here with us tonight. Our second recipient is Pam Cunningham. This is for the Santa Project. The Santa Project is a group within our community that is providing Christmas gifts and other necessities such as winter coats, boots, etc. to families with children in our school district who are in need of assistance. This organization was started by and run for many years by the past district employee, Joan Gerke. When she retired a few years ago, Pam Cunningham took it over. This year, over 37 families, which include 94 children and over 400 presents, benefited from this generosity of individuals in the Lodi community. With all the challenges over the last 2 years because of COVID, I'm sure you can imagine the impact this had on them. As many parents understand, Christmas is not only a time of joy and happiness, but a time of stress and anxiety when you're unable to provide for your children because of financial barriers. So in order to make the lives of these parents and children easier, there has been someone behind the scenes that will bring all these resources together and organize such an undertaking. Like Joan did for many years, Pam spends countless hours collecting and organizing these gifts, communicating with families a time for pickup or in some cases delivery, and many does some shopping herself. In the time leading up to Christmas, she spends from 20 to 30 hours per week making sure that all the families are taken care of. I hope she realizes how much this project not only affects the families that are receiving presents and necessities, but how incrementally it affects the donors and our overall community as an example of why Lodi is such a great place to live. This project has been a staple of our community for close to 30 years and would not continue without the generosity, time, and commitment of such a person like Pam. So thank you, Pam, for everything you've done to make our lives, the lives of our students and parents, joyful during the holidays. So here is a Taking Positive Steps to Service Award. And I wish you could use this $100 grand to buy gifts, but you can't. Take a picture quick.
I would just like to say that I am the coordinator, but without the generosity of school district employees and community members, this program doesn't fly. So it may be my award, but it's the community's award because, you know, without them, I can't do it. So, thank you.
Okay, next we'll have public input. Purpose of the citizen input agenda item is for the public to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. The amount of time allotted to each speaker will generally not exceed 5 minutes per person to allow all people who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. However, the president may modify the time limits at his or her discretion. If the speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public input agenda item. And as an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. Citizen input is an important part of the board meeting agenda, and the board appreciates hearing from the community on issues concerning them and our school district. So there's only 3 people tonight. It shouldn't take very long, so we don't have to organize anything. First up is Susan Miller. You want to come up to the microphone there? Sorry, Suzanne Miller.
Yeah, Suzanne Miller, you have to keep that straight because, of course, Sue Miller used to spend a lot of time with this board. And we have been confused in the past. All right, my time is running. My mission statement as a teacher, we bought into the idea that education is about training and success is defined monetarily rather than learning to think critically and challenge. We should not forget that the true purpose of an education is to make minds, not careers. A culture that does not grasp the vital interplay between morality and power, which mistakes management techniques for wisdom, which fails to understand that the measure of a civilization is its compassion, not its ability to consume or speed to consume, condemns itself to death. That's Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Why do I read that? Because critical thinking has frequently left the building. At least that is my opinion and the opinion of those that I've spoken with over my time on city council and my now 18 years in this community. Critical thinking means challenging. This community does not want to be challenged. The leadership does not want to be challenged. They will shut you down, turn you out, ignore you, gaslight you. And I found that to be a shared experience among several people, which is why we have a hard time getting people to run for office. The word is out. Former Alder Carla Schultz, your former employee, told me what to expect. She didn't lie. And this seems to be an experience that many of us have shared. Why is that? My biggest concern tonight is to look at the upcoming election and let you know that we are going to try and have an open mic, not this very structured 3 minutes and go away. It would be your opportunity to address us, especially if you're going to be on the ballot. But I personally am questioning the fiduciary responsibility and the way this board has spent money. I live in the city. I pay for traffic cops. I pay for road maintenance. I pay for the plowing. You build, and we annex. We are not Wanakee. We are not DeForest. We have 2,000 people, 3,000 people in this town. We can't keep up with the Joneses. There is no greater loss to this community than the $1,000 sale of the old primary school, currently up for $800,000. Wouldn't you like to make that kind of return on your investment? I was stopped from pulling out my $1,000 when I heard about the sale. I went to city council to make sure that that property came to the city. I had assurances it would. Silly me, believing what I was told and then being silenced in the years since. I'm no longer on council, and that's so I could get my voice back. They would not let me talk at these meetings because I represented council. Right now, I represent myself as a city taxpayer, and I want to know about the roads you're going to build, the sidewalks that don't exist, the safety concerns, the bus routes, which always went around town. Earl Bilkey, Don Unkey, Marv Oyen. We couldn't come shooting around here. You went around. That's load and flow. of 30,000 pounds with every bus, and I live on Strangeway. Please consider coming to an open mic session. If you are on the ballot, we will have it whether anyone shows or not. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next up is Jack Tatzel. No, next.
Good evening. I have another concern this month. The mayor of Lodi is proposing that the school district adopt a police school resource officer program. Maybe reset the timer.
He's working on it. Hang on, Jack. Hang on.
Usually I'm the one that has the technical difficulties.
They said it's good to go, so go ahead.
Okay, so talking about the mayor's proposal for the police school resource officer program. For one call a day, the mayor wants the school district to pay for a full-time Lodi police officer. Along with that, she wants to dictate how the officer performs their job in the schools. Now, both the mayor and our superintendent state that they would need to negotiate what the police officer is allowed to do. Now, police officers protect citizens and enforce the law. How much of that is going to be negotiated away? Currently, when there's an incident at the school requiring an officer, the police department's contacted and there's a report of the call and the incident. When the officer is under the thumb of the school district and the negotiated duty limitations, how many officer-required incidents will go unreported, hidden under school district privacy and swept under the rug? Imagine the chilling effect this will have on teachers and students when their access to police protection in our schools is filtered through school district administration. How many times will a teacher be told not to make a big deal out of something, don't make the district look bad, or how many victimized students will stay quiet when they are shamed by SEL coaches for not being understanding and inclusive of the feelings of the person that is harming or terrorizing them? School board also needs to be cognizant of what this would cost. There's the officer's compensation, including benefits, police department overhead. How about a squad car? The officer needs to travel between 4 schools and occasionally transport someone. Do you expect the district taxpayers to cover all of this for one call a day? Remember your recent referendum survey. It told you that only 25% of respondents think the school district is fiscally responsible. The mayor's proposal is grossly fiscally irresponsible. If you plan to make the taxpayers of the Lodi district pay for a full-time police officer and possibly add it to the April referendum, your 50-50 chances of the referendum passing will drop significantly. Actually, I think you'll pretty much guarantee it'll fail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then last, we have Heather Schilling.
Hi there. At the last board meeting, multiple speakers talked about misinformation directed at individuals like myself that have filed open records requests. These individuals did not provide any additional content to back their accusations. Sorry. Without wasting more time from the board meetings on just hearsay, I just wanted to quickly say that I reached out to these individuals to ask for more information. Since these individuals said, that we should go directly to the source, that's what I did. I talked to the mayor, and she said she was actually talking about city governance issues, not school issues. And the other individuals refused to respond and provide specifics to their accusations. Speakers like this are causing more divide in the district than those of us that are just looking for transparency. If you look at comments made in the open forum meetings, I am willing to bet that the word transparency or communication came up at every single table. It is not just a small group of us that noticed this missing from the schools. The school and board asked us what we wanted on so many occasions and then did the opposite. They manipulated results of surveys so they didn't seem as bad as they actually were. They are actively attempting to limit public input content and time. If you are on the board and have a contrary opinion, you are talked down to. If you are a citizen giving a contrary opinion, you are not taken seriously. The do as I say, not as I do mentality has been witnessed time and time again. So yes, a group of us wanted emails, and after seeing the emails, it is clear that Lodi is being driven by a political agenda. It is also clear that the board works for the administration and not the other way around. This is not how it should be. Going back to the initial claim of disinformation, individuals who spoke toward social media etiquette and going directly to the source. The same can be said in return. I have been accused of being against teachers, the schools, labeled as a racist because I oppose CRT politics in the classroom, and considered a troublemaker all because I questioned things that didn't seem right to me, and many others. I want to be the first to say that many, like myself, think the teachers are doing an amazing job. We just think the pressure and communication from the top has been awful. Teachers have had to deal with distance learning, COVID policies, all the while being forced to deal with quickly changing curriculums, policing kids on mass policies, and interpreting the political push made by their superiors. I am extremely empathetic to the hand they have been dealt. Additionally, people have wrongfully assumed that people like myself don't want history taught in the classroom. This is not true. Go ahead and teach that the founding fathers owned slaves, but don't teach our kids that Trump is wrong and Biden is right, or vice versa. Don't teach them that if you are white, you are privileged, if you are a person of color, you are oppressed, etc. We are just asking that the administration stop perpetuating this dangerous narrative that everything is about race. We can learn from past mistakes, but the minute it becomes black versus white or left versus right, you are alienating kids, parents, and teachers alike. We need a board that is able to keep up with changing times without pushing an agenda. A board and admin that values and listens to the public, rather than attempting to change policy so that public input is severely limited. We need a board and admin that practices what they preach. If you are going to claim to be a district that is inclusive, then you have to create an environment where everyone's voice matters. I don't come to these meetings month after month because I want to stir the pot or because I want to point the fingers at anybody. I mean, I am truly here as somebody that loves Lodi, that wants more from the district, and wants to work together to figure out how we can make this a better place for all, and how this thing called inclusivity that we all claim to want actually happens, where everybody's voice is heard and welcomed. The primaries for school board are just around the corner. Please show up and make your vote count. Thank you.
Next, we have the consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group unless a board member requests a specific item to be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. We have the approval of the minutes from the December board meeting. We have our vouchers, payroll checks, account payable checks, and credit card payments, and account payable ACH payments. There are no fundraiser requests. There are fundraiser reports for the Interact Club Santa Breakfast and the FFA Fruit Sale. And there's one field trip request for halftime leadership council for the FFA in Stevens Point. No committee recommendations for approval. Under other, we have girls hockey co-op renewal. Under resignation and retirement, we have the retirement of elementary school educational assistant and a resignation of the middle school forensics coach. Under co-curriculars, we have middle school assistant basketball coach, assistant tennis coach, co-German exchange advisor, middle school forensics coach, and a middle school head forensics coach. Under community program crew, we have one lifeguard. Under regular staff, we have an extension of a long-term middle school choir substitute teacher, primary school special education assistant, a new school nurse, long-term sub-science teacher, middle school special education assistants, there are 2 of them, and a virtual stipend. Under personnel other, we have leave without pay for 3 people.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. First agenda item, 801, set open enrollment limits for 2022-2023 school year.
Yeah, as required by PI 3604 and Wisconsin Statute 11851, The school board, at its January meeting, is required to designate for the following school year the number of open enrollment regular education spaces by grade and the number of open enrollment special education spaces by program and service. So I've asked our administrative team to put together what their recommendations are. It's always a kind of a guessing game, what's going to be coming in the fall of the year. But I would ask that that we approve these recommendations.
I make a motion to approve per the criteria outlined in Board of Education Policy Number 423, Public School Open Enrollment, and is required under Section PI 36.042, Wisconsin Admin Code SPI 3606, 5A, and Wisconsin Statute S 11851A, the Board of Education for the School District of Lodi hereby adopts the administration designated regular and special open enrollment education spaces for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Julie. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. COVID mitigation discussion.
Yeah, so the Medical Advisory Committee met just prior to the winter break and then has a consultant over the break. When we met on December 21st, we put together a recommendation, but then the CDC over winter break came out with new guidelines which were incorporated into the recommendation which is in front of you today. The recommendation continues to include universal masking. It talks about, like, and some of it is again, evolving. The CDC guidance is evolving. So, for example, when we first put this together, over break, we talked about vaccination status, like being what it is to be fully vaccinated, and the CDC had said to be fully vaccinated, you have to have, your doses of an mRNA vaccine within the last 6 months. Or Johnson & Johnson in the last 2 months, or have a booster shot to be considered fully vaccinated. Well, just this week, CDC updated that a little bit to say, well, if you're under the age of 17, if you've just done the full series, you are fully vaccinated. And if you're 18 and older, you have to have that booster shot. So again, it just kind of evolves. But if you look at the guidance that was put together, the concern, obviously, with the Omicron variant, just not really looking at making any major changes. They did change the quarantine limitations, again, based on CDC. So instead of 10 days, it's now down to 5. Close contact down to 5 after a positive or after a test. And I guess I open up for any questions that people would have regarding what was put together.
Any questions?
Yeah. So just to let you know, the other thing that we had an issue with this week was our website was down because of, we had a malware attack, not us personally, but the company that we work with. So we were unable to update our numbers, but last week we just updated our website today. We had 56 cases within the district of COVID-19. And I know we had a bunch again today, and we'll continue to work through those.
Okay. No questions, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. It's 8:03. It's for the referendum. Resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limits by $5,980,000 per year for 5 years for non-recurring purposes and providing a referendum election on said resolution.
Yeah, so the referendum is based on the discussion and vote that the board took last time. So we took that information and took it to our legal counsel, and they put together this resolution. One of the conversations we had last time was the conversation about maybe, I think Mr. Richter said something about it might say up to a certain level. Our legal counsel felt that was repetitive, says the board can always under levy. So saying it's up to and putting that number there was repetitive, so they didn't add that piece in there. But I think it's pretty straightforward. This went through the Facility and Finance Committee. They tweaked it, I think one of the whereases prior to this being put together. So I'm looking for an approval.
So let me read this whole thing because it's a little bit of it's a thing.
It is.
So whereas the district currently has a 5-year referendum in the amount of $1,700,000, which expires after the 2021-2022 school year, whereas the district has ongoing maintenance and technology needs, whereas the district has ongoing operational needs to support instruction and extracurricular programs, whereas the district desires to maintain career and technical education offerings, whereas the proposed referendum would be comprised of $3,850,000 is for operational needs and $2,130,000 is for facility upgrades. Whereas the district mill rate for the 2021-2022 school year is $11.11. Whereas the district projects that passage of the above referendum will decrease the district's mill rate to equal to or less than $11 for the 2022-2023 school year. Therefore, be it resolved as follows: the school district of Lodi, Columbia, and Dane counties, Wisconsin hereby authorizes the placement of the following question on the ballot in the spring election on April 5th, 2022. Shall the school district of Lodi, Columbia, and Dane counties, Wisconsin, be authorized to exceed the revenue limits specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes by $5,980,000 per year for 5 years, beginning with the 2022-2023 school year and ending with the 2026-2027 school year, for non-reoccurring purposes consisting of maintenance and technology upgrades, maintaining and supporting instructional and extracurricular programs, and maintaining career and technical education offerings. And since I just read that whole thing, I guess I will make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Can you just second?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Can you just second?
Yes, I can second
Okay,
that.
perfect. So I made a motion and Barb seconded it. Is there any further discussion on this?
Yeah, if we could read line, I'll just read it, I guess. Whereas the district has, excuse me, whereas the district has nope, I'm on the wrong one. Whereas the district desires to maintain career and technical education offerings, I believe was missed.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
But that's not part of the motion. So.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Barb?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
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 Yes. Passes 7-0.
So thank you, to everybody who's put all the time and an effort. Mr. Richter, the Facility Finance Committee's put a lot of time and effort into putting this together. We will put together informational sessions regarding the referendum for staff and for the community, and publish those, have some in each of our communities that make up the school district of Lodi, also have some here, just to make sure that we're providing information. The other thing I will provide to the board is a kind of a do and don'ts when it comes to referendum. You know, for example, we cannot use any public funds or anything to promote or be against a referendum. We can use public funds to provide information about a referendum. Board members have a little more wiggle room about being, being a part of like yes committees or no committees or things like that, because whereas an administrator, I can provide information to both of those type of committees, but I cannot be a part of any, like, again, promotion or against a referendum, kind of, because I'm pretty much considered on the clock 24/7. So, but I will provide a whole document to you in my weekly notes I send to you, just so you know what the kins and the do's and don'ts of a referendum.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have the school board election update.
Yeah, so as you see there, we have 5 candidates for 2 positions in April, which means we will have a primary election on February. As of right now, many of our municipalities, this will be the only election in February, which will mean that school district will have to pay for the entire election.
What?
In all these municipalities where we're the only one. It's just the way that works. It's not nothing we can do about it.
There's no judges or anything running?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, we're still waiting for a couple just to make sure, but. So what Maureen just said was that there's a couple municipalities that we're still waiting to hear from that might have other primaries, but otherwise it will just be us. One of the other conversations we had is, since we're the only one, we could talk about consolidating polling places. We don't want to do that.
No.
Right? We want to make sure that
Open, yeah,
we
100%
have,
open.
everybody can vote where they need to vote, and that every voice is heard, so we're not going to be doing that. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make the board aware.
So that
that-
narrows, so then that primary is to narrow it down to
4,
4.
right? So it'll narrow it down to 4, eliminate one of those people, and then they will be on the election for the April 5th date, same day as the referendum. And as you look on here, the people listed, that is the order they will appear on the ballot. They were randomly selected, and that is how they will look. And I know typically our Optimist Club is pretty good about putting together an Optimist Club forum. I know I talked to somebody today about that a little bit. So typically they try to put together some forum that works for all the candidates. Sometimes they do it during the day so we can have some of our students from our government and social issues class be there and take part. Other times we do it in the evening. We'll also talk about the possibility of trying to film it and be able to post it then on YouTube or something like that, so people who can't come would be able to watch it.
That would be good.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Okay, any other discussion on that? Let's go to board self-evaluation. So if you could open that document. For us, it's under closed session. Because this is where we get to have the discussion about these things.
Pass this down, Crystal. So I put together a summary
Yes.
today of just in looking at your self-evaluation, and that's how I handled it last year. I'm giving you a paper copy. It's in board docs as well, but I didn't upload it till today because we had a couple board members finish it last week, so I was unable to get it done last week in time to put it in board docs before Friday. And so really, in looking at, again, we can have a long discussion about all the specific steps, but just the summary that as I looked over it, the couple, three comments that really seemed to emerge for me was some professional development on school finance, budgeting, and the state budgeting process.
Yes.
So there's a couple possible next steps down there that the board could discuss. Understanding the day-to-day of students and staff. And I think that's something that's always, every board that I've been a part of have always been looking at. We talked about the listening sessions we did this year, but there's a possibility you could look at, do we schedule individual classroom visits or visits to schools? Do we increase the number of listening sessions we have for staff, or have listening sessions with groups of students as a possibility? And then instructional programs and data. And this is something that Dr. Carls has been sharing with the curriculum committee frequently, but we could have Dr. Carls and principals do more of that information at regular board meetings. Ensure that more of that's included during strategic planning updates, and obviously schedule a board administrative retreat, which we are doing here in January, and some of that's kind of been put on hold the last couple of years because of COVID. So just kind of a summary of thoughts that I had as I read through it, but I'll obviously open it up for discussion.
But in addition to a summary of the thoughts that you had, an action plan going forward on how to address some of those things.
Yeah, so there's some possible steps, but I guess I look at the board's direction of what they would like to do to accomplish that.
Yep. And school finance is one that comes up every year. Because we have the referendum this year, it's almost mandatory that everyone on the board understands school financing to the nth degree. So we should schedule that one as soon as we possibly can to get that one going. So those going to the convention, there's all kinds of sessions on school finance that you can attend to get a better handle on that. But getting it directly from Brent would be ideal, right? Because it's ours, and it's our numbers and our stuff, so that one for sure should be scheduled as quick as possible.
Would you like that as a part of your board retreat?
I think that is enough on that agenda
Okay.
already, that
Yep.
school finance is a big enough thing
Yep.
on its own.
It is.
By itself, so. I think it's a totally separate meeting. sorry, I don't want to dominate. Does anybody else want to
No,
speak?
I
Okay.
agree. I think the finance is like in itself.
In the mic.
Oh, the financial, or the financial information should be on its own. It's,
Well, the other possibility for us would be to do it at a facility finance committee and invite the whole board,
Yes.
yes, that
right?
sounds.
That would kind of make sense if that's a possibility,
Yep.
like and have Brent do a presentation there, or if we want to have somebody else as well, and talk to Brent if there's somebody else he feels would come and help and augment that.
That would be up to Brent to decide, right?
Yep.
If he wants to bring in Mike or somebody
Yeah.
else, yeah.
And obviously Brent's not here today, he's out ill today, so,
Right.
but I will follow up with him.
Okay.
It's a possibility. I'm just trying to think of a way to coordinate that in a way that works for people, or we could push back a facility and finance committee meeting a little bit later. Just knowing, people's schedule, sometimes 4:30 is a little early.
Yep. And there are online stuff from WASB that people can attend and watch, but it's school finance, and so it's incredibly complex and incredibly detailed, and they do a very good job of it, but it's hard to get through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like the toughest school kind of stuff you can go through, so.
So at the convention, there's a half-day session that I
Yes.
went to the first year I went to the convention, and it was great. I mean, a lot of my take-home was this is like overall school finance, in Wisconsin, how it is run is very complex, but it was a great base. So when I hear Brent talk, then I'm like, oh, yeah.
Fit that in.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a multi-step process when you're looking at how schools are funded, But anyway, that's a great half-day session, which needs to be augmented with Brent's
Yes.
direct talk about how that applies to us.
And then we did have listening sessions. How did you feel about, is that enough listening sessions? We went to one time to each school this year. It took us October to January to do that.
I feel like we should have the committee meetings at the different buildings and rotate them and just have that be the thing we do. That's my thoughts on
Continual.
that. We just continually do it. And we might have listening sessions where, like if we do them enough, we may have some that are just not well attended, or there's just not that much to talk about. That's fine. Sometimes they could be more informal then, and you're just building relationships.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot more to be said, and I think that understanding how the staff are feeling at any given time is important for us to have that more directly rather than filtered.
Can't argue with that. So, a year or two ago, we put committee meetings together so that we weren't coming here every Wednesday night, right? And that's why we did a back-to-back thing, because it was
Oh,
just, we
yeah,
were here
yeah, yeah.
all the time.
Mhm.
So if we do all committee meetings, we could still do back-to-back, and just the first one is a listening session,
Mhm.
and then the second committee meeting isn't, right? We could still do it. That
Right.
way we'd get into a building every month.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds like a smart idea.
How does that sound?
Yeah, we can do that. It's just looking at, I just have to look at the schedule,
Okay.
right, and try to schedule that out. Because how we did it this time was about once per month,
Right.
right? We had one of the committees in October met in a building, two in November because we didn't have December meeting, and then we did a January meeting. So one of the committee meetings meant in a building per month.
Right.
But yeah, we can look at a schedule and put something together.
If it doesn't happen every month, that's
Right,
great.
right.
Right. I'm not like saying I'm wedded to any particular system. It's just that if I was a teacher at the primary school and I knew that at least once a month that some board members would be there, I think it's helpful.
Or every couple months.
Yeah.
Or every couple months if it
Right.
doesn't work, yeah.
I think talking to students would be great.
Mhm.
Is that possible? Can we do that? That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I think you could, right? I mean, you should be able to. We
Right.
just put together a listening session, so you would work with probably the middle school and the high school especially,
Right.
and put together a kind of a group of students that represent a bunch of different, kind of like you did for strategic planning, right? You try to get a group of students. We wouldn't just bring our leadership council kids together,
Right.
or your National Honor Society kids, right? You want to have kids from all walks of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Be a part of that. And we've done listening sessions for different things, like LCAT has done listening sessions
Yes.
in the past with groups of kids from all walks, or tried to, and same with the middle school, and elementary as well.
When we did the community listening session, there were a large group of students who said, oh my God, we need to do this for students, right? And so, gosh, if we could do that, that would be amazing. But that's a lot of work.
It is, so it's going to be, but it's worth it,
Right.
right? So that's the piece.
Is there possible, like a high school class that could take it on as a project, as the organization, and somehow, again, not this, like next fall, next spring kind of thing, not do it tomorrow kind of thing, but in the future, where you could sort of see that fitting in as a government kind of interaction thing or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
But then they would be involved, they would do the setting up, whereas you wouldn't have to do the setup, so stuff. And then they would be in the recruitment of getting other students to attend, so, from that aspect.
I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Have them, how do you get a listening session
Right.
together? How do you
Right.
look at the structure, or,
And
interact
they
with the
are
structure?
our future in doing all of this.
Yeah, or again, like Leadership Club could do that. Like they could, as long as you're not just meeting with Leadership Club, but if
Right, no,
Leadership
no,
Club
meeting-
is
right.
like, find, again, people from every walk of life here in the high school, like let's map out the high school, kind of like we mapped out the community,
That'd be great.
right? And have a conversation a little bit, because you have, again, kids from all walks of life, so, when I was a building principal, that was a lot of things. You talk to a certain kid about, hey, we're thinking about doing this. And then you go find a kid who is in that walk of life and go, well, we're thinking about doing this. And you get obviously totally different reactions.
Yeah.
And have conversations and then try to make a decision, obviously, based on their input. So yeah, I think that would be something we could try to put together
As a long-term goal.
as a long-term goal,
Yes.
right? It's
Not
not
tomorrow.
something we're going to do between now and the referendum.
Yes, not tomorrow.
But it would be something we could put together as a long-term goal.
Okay, cool. Great.
Mhm.
And then we need more understanding about the things that are happening in curriculum, in classrooms, from a teacher's perspective, from a staff perspective, but also from a student perspective, right? That's in your list here of stuff. So how we get to the point where we are shadowing a teacher and things like that. And again, COVID is rampant.
Right, right. No, I know
Tomorrow's
what
not
you're
the
talking
right time, but maybe in the spring, or maybe next fall,
Mhm.
or,
Yeah, there's a couple ways we can look at doing that. You could look at, is there, a couple board members who want to shadow for a day, like
Right.
go and shadow in buildings. I know I've had a former board member do that. When I was principal here, they'd come and just walk through classes and ask me to set up a schedule for them. Kind of like I do as superintendent, I pop in the classes from time to time. But we would have to try to put together either a board member schedule to do that. We are already trying to get some of that curriculum information through the curriculum committee by having, like, that's something that's been changed the last few years, where we're having the different curricular
Yes, and it's
areas
amazing.
come back and report, which I think is very beneficial to the board and to our staff, because there's a lot of conversation that happens back and forth. So I can work with Dr. Carls on that to make sure that that continues, or if how we can, maybe the curriculum committee can come with some ideas of how to broaden that.
right. Yeah, can you put that on our agenda, and we can talk about that?
At curriculum committee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that would be the perfect place to do that.
yeah. And I think the other piece that's going to play a role in this is strategic planning,
Yes.
right? So you're going to have a bigger role in looking at some of this data, like when we meet at our board retreat,
Yep.
when we, at the end of the year, look at our strategic plan and our building scorecard updates, and that will continue as we continue to implement the strategic plan. You'll have more insight and more conversation about some of those specific data pieces and curriculum than you've probably had in the past.
Right. And then going to strategic plan, communication, so board communication to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get that to be a bigger, better thing?
Yep.
So, that idea about this meeting every month being summarized and put out through Infinite Campus,
Mm-hmm.
again, you're a busy guy. I don't want to put this on your back. Is that something board members could write up, right? And then you rewrite or some procedure like that, that Infinite Campus would, does that make sense? Or?
Yeah, no, it does. So one of the things that we are, as part of the strategic plan, I haven't got to it yet, but it's one of the things that is part of the report card for this year is doing an audit of our current communication
Okay,
that we're
just
doing.
let's assess
Let's
first.
assess before we start tinkering with it, and
Got
then
it.
let's come up with an idea of where we should do that. Because some of the things probably, like, the term I'd use is keywords at key times,
Yeah.
right? So, like even having them as part of our agenda here, you could have keywords at key times. So when a board member walks away from a board meeting or administrator walks away from the board meeting, you have those keywords that, like, to summarize, like, hey, we passed they passed a motion for a referendum. Well, what's that mean?
Right.
Here are the keywords or the talking points to use. And then the community has access to that through board docs as well. So here's the keywords at key times that summarizes kind of what this motion means.
Right, so I'm getting ahead of myself is what I'm hearing. It's going to be assessed, it's coming up, and then
Yeah.
we'll work on changing or tinkering with that.
Right.
So it's already on the
It's-
agenda going forward.
Yeah, it's part of the strategic plan.
Okay.
Obviously, it's one of those pillars. So when we looked at those 5
Yeah.
pillars, we looked at 3 pillars cascading down, right? We preparing for the future, the nurturing, belonging for all students. Communication was one, right? So we knew that we can't do all 5
Right.
like right away. So we focused on the 3, and then those other 2 are kind of lagging a little behind. Not that we're not working on them, but they're going to lag a little bit behind just because we want to do them all well. And to do that, we have to focus.
Okay, so that's fine, that's
So-
good. I'm just trying to make sure we hit all of the points that
Yep.
are on here, so.
Mhm.
And again, anyone else jump in if you want. Yeah, so we captured all the stuff at the end of our commenting on our evaluation. We've gone over all of that stuff. Or fit in, unless you want to bring something else up.
And the other piece would be that, obviously this summary I put together and it just showed up for you today, so, which is unfair, right, to drop it in your lap. So when you take it, take it home, look at it, and then look again at the results, and if, look at the themes that emerge. That's what I try to do, is always look at the themes and not just at individual comments. And if there's something else that maybe I didn't see, because obviously I look at this just like everybody else. Sometimes when I look at those things, you have a little bias in there, and so making sure that if there's an area that I didn't quite hit, you can always bring that back or share that back to me, because we can always address this as we move forward.
So the whole reason for the board self-evaluation is to look for problems up front so they can be addressed, right? Rather than letting them fester and get out of control. And looking through all the answers that were provided, there doesn't seem to be any real pinch points in here. And so when I looked at it, it was like, oh, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. There wasn't any of that. So that was good.
Well, but and also I remember, what came out of last year's self-evaluation?
Right.
The listening sessions,
Yeah.
right? That was one of the primary pieces that we took out of that. Strategic planning was one of the things we talked about last year too, is something that the board really wanted to look at. So those things came out of last year's self-evaluation and kind of been focal points for the board this year.
Yep.
So it's a good process to go through every year.
Yep. So does anybody else have anything else to add, or? Good? Okay. Moving on, policy first reading. There are none. Policy review for second reading. There are 2.
Yeah, so we have 2 policy readings for the second read. Policy 187, public participation at school board meeting, a revision for that one, and a revision for policy 187.3, public participation at board committee meetings. You reviewed these policies several times at the policy committee, sent them back one time to the policy committee, came forward. Last time we met, the one tweak we had, which a board member pointed out to me today, was to, instead of having sign up the day of, making sure you signed up 24 hours prior to the posting. So I made that tweak today, and I emailed everybody that if you hadn't seen that, but that was tweaked in there. But otherwise, it's been looked over quite a bit, so looking for approval.
I'm interested in making the motion to approve the board education policy 187 and the board education policy 187.3 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Bill and a second by Julie. Is there any further discussion on these two policies?
Just had a question about signing up for public input starting 24 hours before, or
Yeah.
Start.
the
Yeah, so
clock
we would
starts
schedule it, I talked to Maureen about this today. Every time I look to talk to Maureen, I stop talking in the microphone, so. It would just be, we just have to set up that it would open up at 5:30 on a Sunday for a Monday board meeting. And the idea behind it, the conversation, if I remember correctly, was, if you make them sign up the day of, people get to work here at, 7 or 7:30, open it up, while other people may be already at work, right, or driving on their way to work. This way, it gets people who have an opportunity who may work on Sunday, they can sign up on Monday, but there's people who work Monday morning that they could sign up Sunday evening as well. And then committee meetings, again, it gives them a full time, so if you work night shift, day shift, or like my wife, day shift, night shift, depends on the week,
Yep.
right, so. yeah.
Okay. I just didn't, and it's not the ending, it's the
Beginning.
that's when it opens. The be-
Yep.
The
Okay.
one question I would have, just to verify, because this, one of the things I've talked about is like starting this in July, but I know that's not the motion, right? So I just want to make sure that these would start then starting next month.
They would start next month.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a few comments. Again, tonight we heard about how the school board is trying to restrict people from speaking in citizen input. That's not correct. If we wanted to do that, we don't have to have citizen input. And there's some school districts that don't. But what we wanted to do is set up a set of rules that people could understand. For example, we want to hear from our citizens. And in here, we define that our citizens are people that live in the school district, have children in the school district, or work here. It's not the place or the time to hear from someone other than that. And we've had that in the past over the years. The other thing is we wanted to get it back toward 3 minutes. We feel that in 3 minutes, we should be able to get you to tell us what's important, but we're not here to have somebody read 10 pages or more of a script. That's not what citizen input is for. So we were just trying to go back. This is real similar to the citizen input policy we had before it got revised about 3 or 4 years ago. So we're just trying to be efficient with everybody's time, get good information, and move on.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. 808, gifts and donations. We have a $1,000 donation from Lodi Valley Club, Lodi Volleyball Club for middle school scoreboard, a $500 donation from the Lodi Wrestling Club for the middle school scoreboard, $750 grant from Sauk Prairie Healthcare Foundations for primary school mileage club, $2,500 grant from Sauk Prairie Healthcare Foundation for the middle school trail truckers, a $1,000 from WPPI for the Highway 60 marquee sign, $1,000 from Dolly's Fund of the Lodi United Methodist Church towards climbing structure in Heritage Park, a $1,000 donation from Lodi Youth Basketball Corp towards the middle school scoreboard, and a $1,000 donation from an anonymous source for the crew programs, a $1,000 donation of 78 musical theater songbooks and corresponding piano accompaniment CDs gifted to the Lodi High School choral program from Jeannie Potts.
So I'd be willing to second.
I make a
you
motion to
since you
accept and
essentially-
approve the listed donations with great gratitude. And then seconded by Bill. Is there any further discussion?
I have one question.
Yeah.
On here, there's a grant for $750 from the Sauk Prairie Healthcare Foundation to the Primary School Mileage Club.
It's the same as the middle school trail trekkers too.
They're
That's
walking.
$2,500.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a funny name for it, but they're,
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Administrative reports, there's no LCAT report, there's no student, no student representative. Where's-
What's that? She's
she's on.
she's watching the
Oh.
Google Meet.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So I don't have much to talk about, but we have finals coming up next week.
Yes.
And a big topic is, are we going online between students? But we sent, or you guys sent out an email kind of giving an update on that. So I don't know, we're all just kind of hanging in there, doing what we can.
I think that's true of all of us.
Thanks for joining us, Ashley. It had been very easy for you tonight not to, so we appreciate you joining with us Google Meet.
yes,
And good luck on your finals.
yeah.
Okay, student services?
Just so you know, too, we have a few administrators not here
Yeah,
for a
I
couple of
see.
reasons. One, a couple of them because of health issues, others because they're contact tracing right now. I said that that's where they needed to be versus in the board meeting, so I know our student services
Okay.
coordinator is contact tracing right now versus being here, so.
Lodi Primary School.
Oh, it might not be on.
The things that I'd like to highlight tonight are the Dolly's Fund grant that you recognized. So I just want to personally thank the Lodi United Methodist Church and Melissa Walsh for working on applying for that grant. And that's just money that can help go towards our play structure at the primary. It's beautiful and it keeps building and growing, and it's just a great thing for our students, but also for our community. Another thing I wanted to highlight was our responsive classroom training that we had December 1st with Margie Dorhorst. She came to the school and had a chance to look at our school and our classrooms and just give us some great feedback on things that we're doing really well and other areas for us to grow. And so some of the areas of strength that she recognized were the leadership style of our staff were very assertive, authoritative, and approachable. Our interactions with students were respectful, and our instruction was pedagogically sound. Areas that we're going to keep working on are classroom environment representing our students. So just looking at like the walls and the structures and making sure that those pictures and things represent all of the kids in our classrooms. Approaching discipline proactively, just again, encouraging and making sure we have things ahead of time for our students. And then just using words and non-linguistic models, so just different signage that we could have to help support our students. So we had that training, and then we had a full day training with all of our staff on that Friday. But just some great personal feedback for our school.
Thank you for explaining responsive classroom.
Yeah, no problem.
Elementary school, OSC.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Good. I have just a couple quick things for you, too. And interestingly enough, as you're talking about how to get student voice, so this, I shared some pictures in the report of our student leadership group. And so our student leadership group had been pre-pandemic for our older students, so primarily 5th grade and OSC, because that's when it worked from a lunch perspective, and we could bring those groups together. Now, because of COVID, we aren't able to bring those groups together. So the way it morphed is that there is a 3rd grade, a 4th grade, a 5th grade, and an OSC group. And it's been really interesting to watch that evolve. I don't know what it'll turn into because it's 2 hours at a crack as opposed to 35 minutes. But kids have talked about some of the things that you've talked about. And so I don't know how we would get you guys in touch with them because it's harder for our kiddos to be after school, but those do take place once a month at lunch and led by.
We can make time during the day. Many of us can make time during the day. Yeah. And would love to hear from those kids.
Well, they have a couple interesting ideas for you too. So we're at the very initial stage of the our social worker's like, so I wanted to give you a heads up about some things that are coming your way, and she shared them, and I'm like, they're super cool. Some of them are very large, and she talked about long term. Some of them are shorter term, and so we're going to work on them a little bit, but know that that's a venue where we could probably get you guys in if you
Ask.
wanted to.
Yeah,
Oh,
loop us
man,
in.
that'd be- ask us, we will go. That'd be
Okay.
great.
All right, sounds good. So let's work on it, and we'll have more details for you as time goes on. But so that was our first one, and there were some pictures of that down at the bottom. And then we are in, just like everybody else, we are in our winter testing window. So that means iReady and F&P assessments primarily. Also wrapping up access testing for students that speak a language other than English. And then we are having some professional development around interactive read aloud. So that is part of your literacy block with the idea where students are read to with very specific purpose and kind of a very specific level of text, so that you're really working on comprehension strategies because you are reading to the kids. So it takes away the decoding piece, and it's intended to be one more piece of the reading puzzle, and it's intended to help kids just think through that process. So kind of like if you've ever sat with your kids and had them be a step or two ahead of you in a movie just because of the way that they were thinking, same kind of concept, except without the movie. So, so we're working on that. Our building has been added resources to utilize that. Our staff is working to implement and learning about that process, and so we have that coming up. We also had pictures of our winter concert, which took place right here, so first one in a little while, so it was very exciting. And I do have to say a big shout out to Ms. Weber for making it happen, because she jumped in to help when we had our music teacher transition. And then we just had some pictures of our winter dress-up days right before winter break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What if I don't call the middle school next? Not a middle school.
Go sit down.
All right, good evening, everybody. So first thing I want to do is recognize Shelley Pear for filling in for our choir director in short notice. She's done an amazing job of bringing energy and just coming right in and hitting the ground running. So I want to recognize her for stepping up for us. I also want to recognize John Leggett for filling in for Doug Haft as he's on paternity leave and continuing our students growing in their love for music. A few things that I would like to highlight. First of all, we had a winter concert here on December 9th, and that was the first one that we've had in a couple years, so that was really amazing. The enthusiasm was high, the seats were full, and it just was an awesome celebration of music. I need to recognize Ashley Gulbertson and Shelley Pear for their amazing work. Super awesome performances by our students. Very proud of them and all the work that they've put in and everything that Ashley and Shelley have done to get them ready for that. I also want to recognize Paula Town and Lori Gwynn for their running of the library and getting books that our kids are interested in. So I put some data on there on book checkouts. And from 2015 to 2021, we've had a 180% increase in book checkouts in that 6-year period. And when you go back to 2019, when we were pre-COVID, we have checked out almost twice as many books. So we have also implemented a structure of sustained silent reading. We built a foundation of that within our extended learning time, and this is just showing that our kids are reading a lot more, which is something to really celebrate. And then, like all schools, we are in our testing window. We started doing our iReady diagnostic assessment today, and we're looking forward to those results and looking forward to using those results to continue to help our students grow and to sharing those results with families so we can partner with them and help their students grow.
The library checkout thing, can we see that all the time? Can you keep giving us that every
I
year?
sure can. Well, Ms. Ton can get it for
Oh,
you.
yeah, exactly. But,
Yes.
But it's beautiful to
Yeah.
have that feedback.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And the high school, because he's standing up.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
First of all, staff appreciation for Pam Cunningham again, Lynn Werderitz, and Kathy Trinan. Pam, Lynn, and Kathy made this year's 12 days before holiday break extra special for our staff. They spent a tremendous amount of time in preparation in the staff lounge, and you can see these are the days and these were the things that they had done for our staff, so thank you so much to them. Also, thanking our NHS members, because on our last parent-teacher conference night, Sam Klon, Holly Jelnick, Ryan Franklin, Dylan Harrington, Amelia Hyder, Emma Cahalan and Ashley Richard helped wrap gifts for any of our staff members that needed gifts wrapped. I think Mr. Bronick took advantage of this a few years ago. And there's a picture of Whitney Robarge, who won the prize for the most gifts needed to be wrapped. You can see there's a whole wagon full. Also, I want to recognize our FFA for having another successful blood drive. The need for donors, I think most of you know, is extremely high right now, and they filled every single time slot. And featured in the photo that you'll see in the admin report are Audrey Jesse, Paige Sweat, and Sammy Rakes. So thanks to the FFA. I wanted to recognize a particular student that is one of our STEM students, and that is senior Mira Potter, won the second place at the fall 2021 Honors Project competition, and her project was titled Sustainable Energy Solutions. So congratulations, Mira. Also, like Mr. Pertzborn had mentioned, we had our first winter concert and not having one last year, so bringing an audience back was really exciting. So I wanted to recognize Kate McRae, Mr. Doug Haift, and our longtime substitute, Mr. John Leggett, for their leadership in the music program and having a great evening. One of the things that I did want to mention in December, but I did not, is our open greenhouse. So you can see a picture of the ribbon cutting ceremony, and it was a great evening. Mr. Anderson, who is our FFA advisor and ag teacher, did a great job explaining everything that happens in our greenhouse. So thank you, Mr. Anderson. We did have a high school visitor I just wanted to mention. So John Leggett, who is our long-term substitute, called me on a Sunday evening and asked if it would be okay if his wife, who was visiting from Italy, who is also a music teacher, could come and visit our middle school and high school with him. And I said, absolutely, bring her in. She's a piano and ensemble music teacher in Como, Italy. And she shared this very nice thank you with me after her visit. She said, dear Mr. Jelnick, after my visit at Lodi School, I'd like to express my congratulations for a so wonderful structure. I've worked and visited many schools all around the world, and I'm really impressed about the Lodi School's facilities and the vision that they reveal. So it was nice to get that thank you note from her. And then last but not least, we honored a legend here at Lodi High School, and I want to thank Cody Endress for kind of organizing this. So on Thursday, December 16th, Lodi High School wrestling team honored middle school coach Laverne Ziegler, who had spent 37 years coaching Lodi wrestling. Coach Ziegler's impact on the lives of so many young men and women can only be matched by the other coach featured to the right, and that in this picture, and that was Coach Jack Reinwan. Successful programs have a lot to do with the longevity of coaches in a program, and those two guys have been around forever. There is a link to an article that is going to be featured in the Lodi Enterprise about Coach Ziegler and his incredible career. So again, Coach Endress, I wanted to thank him for putting it together. So that'll be it. Thank
Amazing.
you.
I have a question for you. Don't go.
Yes, go ahead.
So Mira Potter and
Yes.
then the other two young women whose names are escaping me. Can we get a presentation on how that's all going from them, and maybe the next board meeting or the following one or something? Because they are taking a very different path, and so they could refresh us on what that path is and how it's working out for them.
That
That'd
is a
be
great
amazing.
idea. I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
That'd be great.
Curriculum.
Dr. Carls is not here.
Okay, perfect. Then we move on to you.
Right. So WSB gives us sample resolutions to review and vote on at the State Educational Conference this year. So we put those together for the board, and the board was able to look at those and vote on those. That information is in my District Administrative Report section for Ms. Haig. So she has that information. You are a delegate, correct? WASB delegate at the State Educational Conference?
I thought Julie was.
Or is it Julie?
Julie. Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah, it's Julie.
So it's Julie. So now you have that information at there is times, well, we can have that discussion later. But that information is here, so you have know how the board members felt on each of those different resolutions. It kind of gives you some guidance on how they'd like you to vote. So, don't know if anybody has questions or wants to talk about any of those in any more depth.
I do not think so.
Okay. The other thing is just obviously State Education Conference is coming up next week. Just a reminder, you must either show a proof of being fully vaccinated or results of a negative COVID test taken within 72 hours before arriving at the convention. And let's see, and you must wear a face mask to attend any convention events. And as you've noticed through your email, there's certain things that have been canceled. A lot of the social aspects of it have been canceled, but as of right now, the conference is still on.
Good.
Could we back up to the resolutions for just a minute?
Sure.
So one thing I would like to mention is that what happens on the delegate floor at WASB is you can make other emergency resolutions. So if anyone has a last-minute emergency resolution that they would like to put together, I don't know if we would have to vote on it as a board, that would be the thing, but they can be presented that day. And then also, if there are any comments on any of these items that you would want myself to get up and voice at.
So if someone
there.
voted no on one of these things and had a good perspective, they should give that to you.
And I can get up and voice that
Perfect.
to that group. So just add that.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. If you have anything you want to give her, send her an email or talk to her tonight.
Yep.
And I don't have anything on my board president report except for the conference. It's an amazing experience. It's the one time we get to, prior to COVID, let our hair down and speak to each other about other stuff than what's going on here and learn new things. It's just an amazing opportunity to go to it. CISA 5.
We just had a meeting. So CISA 5 will have a booth at the convention, and they have like just tremendous resources, like all kinds of things that I didn't know that they had prior to being on the board. So it's worth stopping by there to talk to them if you're interested at all in what they do. The last meeting we had was really brief, but Jeremy, the director, always has, because he meets with superintendents and he has a lot of information about what's happening around the state, so he's always able to give us a little bit of like, well, what are you hearing? He did say they're doing some superintendent searches, and he says that there's at least twice as many superintendent openings as there ever has been.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
So that it's a rough year, and other administrators too. So just hang on, everybody.
Well, just to give you an input or a different view on that, Poinette's superintendent just announced that he's retiring at the end of December of next year. That will make myself and Portage's superintendent the longest-serving superintendents in Columbia County. Now, there's a superintendent from the Fall River who was a veteran superintendent who came there, and then unless you count the Dells, who's partially in Columbia County. But if you just think about that turnover of leadership that's happening just in our smaller area, that's the kind of the turnover that's happening across the state in those positions.
Okay, are you done?
That was it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Co-curricular.
Wrestling team continues its strong season over the break at the bi-state tournament. The wrestling team took home the first team trophy at the event in program history, earning a silver medal. Additionally, junior Zane Lick took home first place in his weight class. The season continues with a tournament at DeForest this weekend. Their next home event is a duel versus Marshfield on Thursday, January 20th. The boys basketball team is currently 6-5 with a conference record of 0-2. Since returning from break, they beat Mount Horeb 70-58 and suffered a tough loss to Columbus this past Friday, 39-63. Their next home game is Rock the Gym on Friday, January 21st versus Luther Prep. The girls' basketball team has an overall record of 3 wins and 8 losses with a conference record of 0-2. The team suffered a tough loss at Lakeside Lutheran at home on Thursday by a score of 39-43. They take on Lake Mills tomorrow night at home and will play Poinette Friday, January 21st for Rock the Gym. The Norski Co-op hockey team is 3 wins and 4 losses and a tie on the season. This week, the hockey team takes on Wanakee on Tuesday, January 11th, and travels to Toma on Thursday, January 13th. The Stoughton Iceberg hockey team girls suffered a tough loss to the Middleton this past Saturday. That is the girls' team, with a score of 4-1. They travel to Viroqua on Tuesday, host Beaver Dam on Thursday, and travel to Beloit Memorial on Saturday this week. Lodi's mock trial team had a successful scrimmage this past Saturday at Brookfield Central. The varsity team took home second place with 3 students earning Outstanding Witness Awards and 4 students earning Outstanding Attorney Awards. This Saturday, Lodi hosts the Lodi Tournament at the Sauk County Courthouse. Forensics is up and running with their first tournament scheduled for Saturday, January 29th. Thank you.
Thank you. OSC.
So I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but looking at the notes, their winter concert went well. They're still doing the Blue Devil Buddies with Michelle Pulse's class up here at the high school. Continuing to work on curriculum maps, looking primarily at literacy scoping sequence, and continuing to work on the rules chart that we've been, or not rules, roles chart that we've been working on for a while, delineating out like Mike's role and the board member roles and the advisor roles and all of that. And then getting ready to prepare for the enrollment and lottery if needed.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah. 80 kids. 88.
80.
80, okay. Contract review.
We have not met since.
Curriculum. Facility finance, we always meet.
You guys. Working
Yes, we did
hard.
meet. We talked about the referendum.
For sure.
Action, well, we started out with the listening session at the primary school, which went very well. It actually, we went over an hour. You know, we learned lots of information there. And then we did have a short facility finance meeting, tweaked the referendum wording there. I'm trying to think what else we talked about. But
Resource officer?
Yep.
Did you talk about the resource officer?
oh yeah, we did talk about the that was our other big discussion. Yeah. So we did talk about the resource officer, but we determined that the funding at the moment was not there, so we did request, I guess, information or basically give them a very low dollar amount that we could possibly afford for maybe some part-time assistance. So it's kind of in negotiations, I guess.
And then policy?
I think we meet next week or later this week.
Yeah, it was December, so.
But
Yeah, we
other
didn't
than
meet,
that,
in
the-
December.
Okay. It's Mira Potter, Emma Glazer, and Hannah Relke. Those names did come to me. We have our future meeting and agenda items. And
Yeah, just a reminder, future meeting as well, we have that board retreat on the 31st of January.
Don't we have
5:30,
a
we'll have
policy
dinner.
committee meeting scheduled?
gotta be louder.
I'm sorry. I said, don't we have a policy committee scheduled for next Tuesday? So I have that on my calendar. Yes, we do. Yes.
That's the day the conference
The
starts?
question is, do you want to have that, because most people will be traveling that night down to
Oh.
the convention?
No, I don't want to meet by myself, so.
That's what I'm saying, so like, I think
I
I'm
didn't
not-
know where the mistake was. My calendar is here, so.
No,
No,
I think
I'm good.
initially it was there. Is it in my note, my weekly note?
That's why I thought it was gonna be rescheduled too, and then I saw it in the notes, so it's like, oh, it's back on.
No, I'll have to reschedule it, because I just think people will be traveling and it ends up being late, so.
Works for me.
We'll have to reschedule both of them and just see when we can have them. Because it just makes for a late travel day to Milwaukee.
Okay, we are done.
The only thing, just a reminder that I am out of the office on Thursday on jury duty.
Yes. Don't get picked.
And then just again, I want to thank all our contract tracers. As I said, some of our administrative staff that are not here doing that right now, and they've been amazing, but they are burning the candle at both ends, so I appreciate them so much.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Barb. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned 7-0. Thank you.